because the knowledge that I gather, even though not that much, it can be used by others. One, to learn. The other one is also not to make the same mistake that some silly mistake that I made earlier. So now I'm encouraging the newbies, learn from the expert. I'm not the expert, but at least don't repeat the simple mistake. I will always ask, if people ask, I will always go back to these three. One is the employment law. Second one is the performance management system. And the third one is basically system, HR system. People feel it a bit awkward. Yeah, I have done a lot of system migration from manual to system, and also automation, dashboard. So that's another part that very rare people know about me, but I do a lot of HRIS. And my original paper during my degree is basically HRIS in Malaysia. Assalamualaikum. My name is Sulaiman Husin. I'm a trainer for Malaysian HR Forum. Do join me for HR for non-HR, disciplinary, and lines of HR topics. Come, join me.
Hi, I'm Kat. I specialize in training on competency-based interview and behavioral-based interview, CBI or BBI, we usually call them, and also performance management training. So performance management training would have areas like performance planning, right? Performance monitoring and appraisals. What led me to be a trainer would be my personal mission statement. I have this personal mission statement of MAD. It's actually making a difference. Yeah, so throughout my life, I like to make a positive difference to people. Yeah, I like to share knowledge, and I enjoy looking at people grow when they apply this knowledge into their daily life. I especially like topics on interview, right? Because I think it's very, very important to choose the right person. Yeah, then you have the right job fit. So areas such as interview. I also like performance management system because I think that's the key of a company to be able to manage performance well. And I also do some HR programs such as P&A, onboarding, those kind of things. Okay, the proven effective techniques for me so far, it would be something that really involves the participants. So for example, I do a lot of groupings, I do point systems to reward people. I like to customize training as much as I can. And I also like to, when I customize, I like to bring in relevant case studies or scenarios so that I can make it very, very relevant to them. Hello, I'm Kat. I'm a trainer for Malaysia HR Forum. Please come and join me in the training of competency-based interview, performance management system, and many more HR programs. Please remember to join me.
Thanks a lot for joining us today. And so we have with us Sulaiman Husin, who's our associate trainer, consultant. And I heard he's also currently writing his PhD thesis. So welcome on board, Sulaiman.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Arul.
So yeah, maybe before we go into the nuts and bolts of industrial relations, perhaps maybe just tell us, what drove you being a HR, a HR professional, you're doing training, you do consulting. What drives you to do up a PhD?
Okay, this is something about personal. I've been eyeing just challenging myself after a while. Says what else that I can look for, and a PhD would be good because at least it challenged me on my focus, because my focus is always OD, organizational development, and at the same time it's also keeping up with what's the latest in OD.
Okay, that's good. So, well, I think this is something I always have fearful doing up a PhD because of time constraint. So how as a busy adult, as a busy professional, how do you manage time?
Okay, actually, my concept about time is on you. You decide. So if you know for a fact that you need, say, for example, in a day, half an hour, 1 hour just to read, then you just spend that's it. Because otherwise, it will eat you up. So you play with the time.
Okay, that's good. Because one of the challenge I see, among HR professionals, since we are in the HR fraternity, one of the challenges I see among the HR professionals today is the ability to find time, right? Ability to find time, ability to spend time to learn up on, industrial relations practices, HR practices, OD, and so on. And because they're so engulfed with their work, they're so busy, Mondays to Fridays, 9 to 5. Sometimes they stay back late. So, what would be your advice to those professionals who are always finding it hard to find time?
Okay, like I mentioned, you need to make your own time. And this is where normally starting early is important. I normally start my day very early, even those days during my corporate day also. 7:15, 7:30, I'm already there. I'm already in the office doing something because it's easy so that is nobody disturb you actually. So that you are on your own. So you will take half an hour, 45 minutes just to clear things up. And then let's you start to list down. Okay, remember to list it down. Because me as a visual guy, I need to write it down. Say for example, today I got 7 assignments to do. So I just pen it down, list it down, and then I'll check yesterday, is there any outstanding? And from there, you just follow up. And this is the discipline that, sorry, not only in HR, everybody must have.
Well, I think that's a valid point. I just recall back during my younger days when I first joined HR. I used to remember I used to work long hours, and because I felt as a young HR professional at that time, it is best to spend the time before you become committed,
Okay.
before you have your girlfriend, your wife, your kids, and all the expensive hobbies, golfing, etc. Especially at the early start of the career when you have no commitment, right? That is the best time to really spend that time to upkeep and upgrade ourselves. Okay, so well, I think today, this podcast is being held at work Subang Jaya. So we like to thank work, right? I hope I got the pronunciation correct, work, for allowing us to use this nice, beautiful room for our podcast today. So for those of you all, if you're looking for a venue to have your meetings or your meetings or trainings or any engagement, please consider work Subang Jaya. WORQ is by the Federal Highway opposite Subang Jaya LRT and Subang Jaya KTM station. Okay, so I think, Sulaiman, one of the things that has been bothering me to some extent, because I also do training, you do training as well, the level of compliance in Malaysia to employment law, industrial relations, trade union, how do you foresee our level of compliance? Are we a very law-abiding employer, law-abiding organizations, or we decide to follow based on our convenience? What's your take on that?
Okay. Let me bring up a few real issues on the probably maybe last 6 months, especially upon the amendment of 2022 Employment Act. It is not about compliance alone. It is about how do they interpret the law. Most of them, they would like to interpret the law to their likes. But then again, compliance issue, it is not straightforward thing. And if you ask me in general, yes, we are compliant, but we are always being forced to comply rather than voluntary compliance. So that is something that I think, especially a HR practitioner, we must put our feet down. What is the law? We need to follow. And before even we follow, we must understand why it is designed as such.
I fully agree with you. I think for those of you all, if you've been listening to my webinars or, whenever you have a chance to attend my trainings, I always emphasize this particular phrase. I think you know it. If you think compliance is expensive, try non-compliance. Being compliant sounds a little bit leceh, a little bit, tough, yeah, mafan, cumbersome, etc. But the moment we are caught with non-compliance, the penalty is just too heavy,
Yes.
right? So it is, in fact, I would say it's cheaper, right? Now, I just give an example of the glove industry. And I think we all know during the height of pandemic, a few glove companies had, they had this WRO, which is called Whistle Release Order, put on them by the US Customs and Border Protection Agency, meaning that they cannot export their gloves into US. If it's sent into US, it will be retained at the port. And this was when the glove price, from what it used to be before pandemic, increased by, I mean, I do not know whether I got my numbers correctly, but 4 or 5 times, over and above the original price. And that is the best time to make money, because we know during pandemic, all the glove boys, they make so much money. But when you cannot sell during that period, you forgo the opportunity, right? So my question to also this company, it doesn't matter whether you're a glove, you're pump, into the palm oil industry and whatnot. If we were compliant, make those investments to have preventive maintenance on our HR processes, people processes, we could have avoided that.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. So same goes to whether, it doesn't matter what industry, but I think sometimes employees, they just don't want to spend the money. Do they have the money? I believe they have. Why do they not want to spend the money?
Okay, this is something that through my working with a lot of organization, I found out it's actually not to say they don't have the money, they don't want to spend, but probably their priorities are different. So once your priorities are different, you don't look at long term, you look at short term. Why I say short term? Okay, today I gain, whether tomorrow I being compound or given penalty by anybody. So that would be is a game order. If anybody lodge a report, then only I pay. Otherwise,
So wait and see lah.
yeah.
Okay, the wait and see approach. Okay, that's something that I feel we have to move on, because I feel also sometimes we tend to take a very shallow view of compliance,
Yes.
because we always think that compliance takes time to get things done and so on. But little do companies realize this. Get these things settled once and for all, right? Even if it's costly, but I don't think it costs so much money. And once you can put this to rest, you can look into things that matter:
Yes.
business development, strategy, branding, and so on. So, is there any example of a company? I mean, it's fine if you can't, if you can't share the name, but a company in your viewpoint have taken the gold standard in compliance.
Okay. One of the client that I work, they are very conscious about are we following the regulation? Are we following the law? Why? Because the top management felt that they don't want their name to be branded for non-compliance. And in yearly basis, they spend roughly about what 3%, 4% of their revenue just to make sure that they are on top of everything. And they will love to educate their people before taking up enforcement. I use three simple E in my process. The first one is education. Second one is encouragement, and the last one, which we don't want, is the enforcement. And this organization, they put more emphasis on education. Educate the top, the middle, and the bottom. What are your rights? What are your roles? And also from time to time engage with the authorities, the JTK, the SOCSO, the EPF, so that they are on par, if not better. And by spending roughly about 2 to 3% of their revenues, which is small to a certain extent, they avoid all the litigation issue. They avoid all the safety and health issue. They also avoid unnecessary negative publicity, I'll take it on that route. So, but they need to spend a little bit more compared to if there's no case, okay for me. And even they also budget for certain part in case of any litigation issue. They do budget for that.
Well, I think, I mean, I strongly agree because compliance is a one-time issue. As long as we comply to the law and we get done with it, we can release the energy. You know, most of the time I see this, and I do not know whether it's right to say it. When we are not compliant, we tend to spend energy to put ourselves in what I call as keadaan berjaga-jaga. Always being careful, you know, always cautious whether am I being checked, right? So get that done once and for all, so that you can spend productive time, quality time to look at branding, building the business, and so on. So I think I've got Datuk Lila Ramli. She says this, you know, it is a governance issue in SMEs, which is critical, right? So I'm not sure whether SMEs are the ones who are the culprit or it's the non-SMEs. What's your take on that?
Okay, let's take it this way. Regardless whether you're big or small, the big one also some follow, really follow. Some the big ones also cut the queue. The small one is also the same. So we can't simply say that the SME is the one, but let's put it this way because SME is the majority of the organization that we have. Because large organization, we don't have that many, and by the proportion of them, it looks like they are not following. Okay, let's just be realistic a little bit because SME probably they only have one man show for every single thing. I have one, I think back during the COVID. This one person is doing HR slash finance slash admin slash general things. And one person and the company roughly is about 120 people. So then the tendency of the focus is going to be given at accounting, at finance compared to people. So then that's where the flaw will happen because you only have 8 hours per day, plus minus. Then if your focus are wrong, then you are going to firefight almost every day.
Who's listening in today says this: employer all the time thinks about ROI and business oriented.
Mm-hmm.
So if I were to invest in this, would I get the ROI?
Yeah.
If I were to invest in compliance, would I get the ROI? Similarly, automation. If I were to automate the business today, you know, and reduce manpower, reduce, whatever that thing that, you know, brings about using automation. So what about ROI in compliance?
Okay, this is where I suggest rather than measuring in terms of the investment, let's look at what is the return on equity or on the exposure. We reduce the risk, and this is where people don't measure. We only want to measure. Okay, I invest this, I got this. But if you can look at the near miss, the incident that did not happen because of our compliance, the litigation or the any legal issue that we are able to avoid, there is much more. So, and this is I encourage the HR practitioner, guys, be numbers illiterate. You need to literate with numbers. You need to have your ratio. You need to have your analytics. You need to pen down what works. And it's not necessary everything is okay, is 1 + 1 = 2, but because we are looking from the perspective of people, and people normally we don't really go on direct on monetary, but we have some in non-monetary side, and this is where the risk can help the company to focus. Because if like what you said just now, the berjaga-jaga, the caution, then every now and then you say any authority are going to come and check on us, then you spend your energy on the negative things.
I believe many employees out there, may not be all, we tend to spend unnecessary energy, you know, just watching out whether people are coming. Why not we take that energy, we save the energy by compliance, right? Complying to whatever the law says. And yes, it may cost you some money. Now, I give an example of an employee that I work with. Now, what this employee done is the bosses, there's two bosses on top. So the two owners, two shareholders, So they say this: we must comply with all the regulations at all cost. It doesn't matter whether it is costly, we have to go for it. And I can tell you, they are making a lot of money. So why is that? They can be compliant and make money at the same time, while some others think that, okay, I better don't do this. I give a very simple example. There are employers out there, I know some of them, meal allowance, they refuse to include into ORP, right? Because they thought, okay, if I can exclude meal allowance into ORP, attendance allowance into ORP, commission into ORP, maybe I can save a little bit of money here and there. I save on overtime, right? But how much are you really saving?
Not
Are you
much.
saving $1 billion? Are you saving that much, right? And I think the other one you spoke about equity, right? Compliance, I feel there is a very fine, I feel there is some connectivity to employee morale. What's your take on that? If you comply with the law, literally employees are not being shortchanged, because if the law says you have to include meal allowance into ORP, and eventually who benefits? The employee benefits, right? So what's your take on that?
Okay, this is where transparency is important, and this is what I gather probably maybe the last 2 years. The employees are now more well versed about the employment law in comparison to the employer. So much so they start to question. Why they start to question? They say, "Hey, how come you did not include this? Why did not you do this?" And with the increased volume of social media, we cannot stop. So my take on it is, don't save a little but you lose too much. Example, if somebody lodge a report, then the JTK came over you, and they will start to dig out the last year, last 2 years, last 3 years, then you are in trouble and you are going to compound it. That will be worse than what you need to spend.
Okay, so I think my mic have echo technically, right? Okay, it's good. Now, thanks a lot for that comment, Sulaiman. So, when we look at things from a broader perspective, right? Uh, because the enforcement agencies, right? I know sometimes we are safe because so far nobody has come and checked on me. So as long as nobody checked on me, I'm okay, despite me being non-compliant. But we never know when an employee of yours triggers labor department. If my company is not paying this, and you wait for them to pay a visit, and they will visit you, like what you have said just now, you have to look back at your past month's record and make the rectification and repay, which is much more costlier, right? Now, okay, so I think that's a little bit on a little bit icebreaker for the topic today. Now let's talk about Employment Act. Recently, there was an amendment made, and we know that this amendment has quite a vast coverage, pertaining to the day-to-day aspects of our operations. What what drove the government to make these changes? What is the actual intention of the government making these changes? I mean, we all thought the current laws are quite okay. So why these changes? Maternity 98 days, introduction of paternity leave, reduction of work hours, forced labor, discrimination. What could be the reason?
I may not be looking from the government perspective, but let's look at it from a practical purpose. Okay, if you look at it, most of our laws are, yes, the minimum is there. Like prior to that, our what we call maternity leave was 60 days, and then there's no protection and whatever. Now, the important part of the amendment 2022, we must also put in mind as we are progressively moving into more high tech, more developed. That's why flexible work arrangement is there. The paternity leave is given because most company doesn't really look into it. And Y98 is basically the ILO standard. But let's look at it in the spirit of us moving with a developed country and opening it up for more what we call workforce in terms of the benefit to them. Why I said benefit to them, it is, you see, from 60 to 98 days, there's another one. And the crux of it is forced labor. Okay, let's look at it. How many organization, how many companies that being compounded or given penalty because, say, for example, for allowing the staff to stay in a very unconducive work environment. If you can recall during the MCO, almost 70 to 80% of the accommodation provided are not enough, are not good for the people. And yet, you are pressing these people for productivity. So this is where the balance need to be. Yes, organization need to make money, but at the same time, the employee must also be taken care of. And one areas that we also need to also understand is the growing up of SME and small and medium enterprise. Now they call it the macro. They add on another one. In some instances, they just do what they want to do. And with the Employment Act amendment minimum benefit, it gives the purview. And one of the major changes is now everybody with employment contract is already in the law. So you can say, okay, I pay you 4,001 ringgit. We can do whatever things that you want to do. No, that's not right. So this is where balancing it up. But at the same time, we must also remember moving forward, our challenge is not on local talent. We are fighting in the global talent. So that's where I think we need to gear to that.
Thanks a lot. So I think that's something that we have to take note of. The other point that I also like to highlight is one of the reasons why the government made these changes is so that Malaysia can participate in the CPTPP agreement. I think you know that as well. The CPTPP agreement allows Malaysia to operate and to offer our services and products to to more companies with less restriction. And countries like Vietnam have signed it, so there's no excuse for Malaysia not to sign it. We are supposed to be far ahead of Vietnam in this case. So anyway, we have done it, right? That's one of the reasons to do so. But I think on the other hand, as what you've mentioned, and I think what Dato' Lila Ramli also says this, now with this amendment has been made, I think the government is also doing the employees a favor, right? Sometimes we do not know it. When the doctor gives you a medicine, you may not like it, but the doctor is giving this medicine for your own benefit. So one of the reasons, the government did this, we know it's CPTPP to increase the governance, like what Dato' Lila Ramli says this. So I just let me read out what she says. Challenges by all in adopting the amendments, marginalization and exclusion of people on account of social media, religious, caste, gender affiliation. There's an existence of significant number of voiceless people, right, with little opportunity to participate in governance, right? And I think this touches also what you've said. So now there's a wider number of people who are in the law that is being covered. And so coming back to why this amendment is helping companies, one of the changes is flexi work arrangement, right? Now, I always tell this to employers. If you make your work environment rigid, work hours rigid, long hours of work, for example, if you look at blue collar operator or maybe those people earning 1,500, 6 days work, 12 hours per day. I mean, when we do a bit of payroll computation, working 12 hours per day, 6 days a week, 1,500 basic, and with one to public holiday in between, the total gross salary is about 3,000, maybe plus minus 1,200. That's about it. Now, for the youngsters today, why do I want to slog for 12 hours per day, 6 days a week, to earn 3,000 ringgit plus minus? Might as well I go and drive Grab. Because if I can put in the same number of hours, Grab, Food Panda, Lala Move, etc., I can earn 4,000-5,000. So why do I want to earn 3,000? And I think Nurul Izzah recently, she also had a article, she says this, people want to be independent today, right? So imagine, I can earn more money than what you're paying me, and I can be independent, I can decide my own timing. So why do I work for you for 2006, right? For 1,005 and so on. What's your view on that?
Okay, I have this real case. I think early part of this year, September. This company, they are doing facility management. So they have a small room, kind of this room. They want to paint the room. So they says, okay, to paint the room, roughly it takes about 3 hours. So then they call the staff, okay, staff, why not you all, I'll give you OT, 3 hours, plus your meal and whatever. Then the staff start to do calculation. Okay, OT per hour, I got 25 ringgit. And then I got my meal allowance, another 15 ringgit. So 3 times 25 is 75 ringgit plus another 15. So roughly I got about 90. Then the staff says, boss, if I do Grab, 1 hour, I got 120. So why should I go on the OT?
Exactly.
So that become a backfire.
Yeah, true. I mean, I'd like to bring up this topic of attendance allowance. You know, employers provides employee attendance allowance. Typically, it's 100 ringgit. I know some give more, but let's say we take the regular rate is 100 ringgit. If you come all days to work, we get an attendance allowance of 100 ringgit. But for the employee, despite us offering attendance allowance, which in the first place is wrong, we already have a contractual obligation. Why do I need to incentivize you to come to work? Obligation says you got to come to work. You come to work, you produce what I need you to produce. I pay you X amount of money as per the agreement. But here, the employees, sometimes they choose not to come to work. And on top of the contractual obligation, we provide them allowance, which I feel is not right. But even with the allowance, 100 ringgit, people still don't come to work. And I think I just want to connect, to what you have said. Boss, tak apa lah, itu 100 ringgit you simpan. I boleh buat Grab, I can earn, for the day I don't come to work, I miss my salary. See, blue collar, one day rate is about 60 ringgit, right? I know it's about 57 or so, 60 ringgit. So if the employee did not come to work for one day, he forgoes his basic wages for the day, 60 ringgit, plus maybe a bit of overtime, another 100 ringgit. So that is about, let's say 100, 200 ringgit. I take a ballpark figure, 200 ringgit. But for the day, if he was to drive Grab for 12 hours, he will earn way beyond 200, right? So what is the 200? What is the attendance allowance? Firstly, unless we're paying 100 USD, maybe 100 pounds or 1,000 ringgit attendance allowance, I think that's a game changer. 100 ringgit tak payah lah, you simpan sendiri.
So there will be a challenge actually, because the Gen Z, the Z generation, not to say they are calculative, but they work smart. So then they know, okay, if I work like what you mentioned just now, looking at the blue collar, if I need to work hard and then I still earn that much money, and then I need to spend 6 days a week, 8 hours or 10 hours a day. So to them, they calculate, might as well either I go on gig, or now they most of them, what they do is they become a freelancer doing certain things. So the return to them, they can see it, and then it worth their effort rather than staying in the office 9 to 6.
So I think my advice to employers is this: evaluate the whole game plan. What's your game plan today? The game plan is to squeeze as much as we can from these workers and pay them that very minimum basic wages, etc. Or should we look at paying people more competitively? When people are happy, they're more committed. And if we can do this, then, Rafizi Ramli's, what is his wage, progressive wage and all that, will be an adder. But why do we want to wait for the government to do this? Why can't we do it ourselves, right? So if we want to play, I use this term called hardball. If we want to play hardball with our employees, I can tell you they will play even bigger hardball game with us, right? And one of the biggest challenge today is gig economy. The biggest competitor to employees today, if you ask me, is the gig economy. It doesn't matter whether it's at blue collar level or even at white collar level. People prefer to drive Grab because independence. Lala Move, Grab Food, and so on. Be influencer. Use AI and do some stuff here and there. Sell online. So people see another option for them to earn money. In fact, earning more money, independent, and I don't need to report to you, right? So, when the government introduced flexi work, I feel that is a good move. I know some feel it as a pinch, but I think it's a good move because it pushes us to improve our offering to the employee. What say you?
Okay. Last year, I did a consulting work on studying the flexible work arrangement in manufacturing environment. And surprisingly, we are able to move ahead with a total risk map for FWA. We have a risk map. So the heat map shows almost 80% of the department are not impacted by time. So you can go on FWA, only the 20%. So even within that 20%, we got rooms for us to do FWA. And at that juncture, the board start to realize, oh yeah, with FWA, we are in control. We know what the people want. And at the same time, it saves the hassle of people, because there's one day I came to the office, between 8:15, because their clock hours is 8:15 to 8:30, everybody are rushing just to do the thumbprint. And then it's a chaotic, but after 8:30, quiet. Then I asked the top management, do you want this to happen? Because accident have not happened, but 8:15 to 8:30, about roughly 80 to 90 cars come and go at their lobby, and it is troublesome. And once they did that, they do the study, and it changed the mindset from working manually. Now everything is online. So the management by a push of a button knows what have been done, what are still in store, what's next. And it's safe actually. Looking at the perception, they have done the pulse survey. The pulse survey improved, if I'm not mistaken, by 12 to 15%.
I think this is more of a mental block, right, on employers. FWA is a big no-no. I know many are trying to, hoping that the enforcement. I know, I was told, if I read it correctly, some time ago the minister says enforcement. We give you some time, right? You need to get all your instrumentation, systematics ready. But why do we want to wait for the government to say that, okay, we're going to start checking, right? And why are we not embracing it? The whole world is embracing it. Some form of flexibility. It is not entirely work from home 100% of the time, but some form of flexibility. And I always tell employees this: if you keep on saying no, 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 and you build a Great Wall of China in front of you, tomorrow employer will say, thank you, boss, I'm going. Right? Because you know why? The other company is able to offer me some flexibility which you can't. So you go. Now, when your best employer goes, when your productive employer, one of your, your key employee goes, you lose out. Right? Now, I find that what you said just now is quite interesting. So how you mentioned about risk map, right? When you implement FWA, you look at a risk map. Would you be able to explain a little bit more further? Perhaps, some of the members listening today could explore further.
Okay, you see, we always measure the business risk. We never measure the people risk. So if we measure the people risk and we put in element of FWA, okay, what we did was we have a decision tree. Example, your department, can the job being done offline or it must be online? Okay, if it is on offline, then we look at it. Must it be done in the office? So we have that decision tree. And then from there, we interview the department head. From the department head, we got the scoring. Then we have our traffic light, the red, the yellow, and the green. Then at the same time also, the company are so cautious, they don't do immediately. What they do prototype. Okay, let's run a pilot for 1 month. Does the heat map stay? Then, yeah, the theory is proven, yeah, it can stay. The only thing that they say cannot be done, what we call remotely, is only the production. Okay, somebody said R&D. They said R&D, if you break up the job, 80% of R&D job are desktop review. Only 20% is doing the test in the factory. So that 80% can be chucked out and then you can do it anywhere. But then the company go slightly deeper. They even introduce what kind of policy that we must have before we go FWA. Example, if you are poor performer, automatically you are not on the list. Because if you're poor performer, in the office, I cannot monitor you. If you at home, I do not know what happened. So then they have that criteria. And whoever that is on that map, you don't get it perpetually. No. You apply, you got it for 3 months. Then it says, okay, 3 months, if you behave, then we are consider. If you don't behave, because the only, I think some people are arguing about GPS monitoring. They say if you want to work from anywhere, you must install this application. So it will track where you go. It is not about you, no. It is about the company data privacy and protection. It is not about you. Because you log in. We don't want you to log in from a public place. So it will, what we call, breach the data confidentiality. So that's the only thing. Then people say, yeah, you want to work from anywhere. And that's one comment while we are doing the pilot. One of the managers is saying she saved roughly about 3 hours per day back and forth. And that 3 hours is proven in the productivity. It is not just, oh, we save 3 hours. No, no, no. 3 hours is something else that shows us the productivity. And within that 1 month, 1.5 months, we do the testing. The top management felt that all the data is now online. Compared to last time, you keep it in your notebook, I keep it in my notebook, then every now and then I present, but the data is never consolidated. So now with one platform, everybody consolidated on that platform. At top management, they can see what is in the pipeline, whether our pipeline is strong or not. Is there WIP very high? What are the blockers for certain projects?
The amendment under Section 60P of flexible arrangement says that employers must reply an employee within 60 days. Employer applies within 60 days, whether it's going to be a yes or a no. If it's a no, you've got to provide an answer to them why it's a no. But there's no escalation, there's no appeal point at the one point, from that point onwards. So what I've captured from you just now is, if the employee is a poor performer, what flexi work are we talking about? But can I add on also those with disciplinary issues?
Yes.
Right. So these two criteria, if you have a performance issue and you have a disciplinary issue, there's no flexi work, right? You work from the office. And so for those of you all, if you have not drafted your flexi work arrangement policy, get a copy from the forum. These 2 points are captured there. And also the point of, flexible application cannot be something long-term. We have issues globally and also in Malaysia, where these employees, once upon a time, they were promised long-term flexi work, right? You can work from home for a long period of time. So when the company wants you to come back, right? When the company wants you to come back, the employee says that, boss, you told me long-term, so I've made all my arrangements. I cannot come back now. So never issue a long-term, right? Keep it on block basis. Okay, this application is only for the next 2 months or next 3 months. At the end of 3 months, if you want to continue, you reapply, right? Having this long-term, I can tell you, is big no-no. So this is one of the items that we must have in our flexi work arrangement policy. And I've got a member here saying it's quite difficult to, to memorize his name. Chatno Sari says this, it's a trust issue for SME especially, because the implementation FWA, employees think that the staff got more leisure time, right? The only way I can see this is, how sure are we the employee in the office is working that 8 hours, even though they are physically there Mondays to Fridays, 9 to 6, with, minus lunch is about 8 hours. How sure are we that these employees are really productive the entire 8 hours? They could be working for 4 hours, and the other 4 hours, unnecessary cigarette break, toilet break, yesterday's match analysis break, some office juicy gossips and whatnot, and pretending look busy but not busy, checking WhatsApp, etc. I think it's a performance management issue, right? If we have this concern that employees, if they work from home, they've got more leisure time, I think the root cause or the fundamental issue is KPI, performance management, and managerial capability. What say you?
Okay, that's where people say, is it the important one is the attendance or the output?
Quantity or quality?
If I'm there 9 to 6, no late coming, but I got zero output compared to a person maybe on a bit, but on daily basis, I meet 90 to 100% of my productivity. Okay, this is where during the time that we did for this company, looking at it, we measure on the productivity rather than the effort. Because I think, okay, let me take back years ago. Once I think what, during my early time of working, I work for manufacturing. Uh, for office people, we don't have clock in, clock out. The boss doesn't ask, Mr. Aru, what time you come? No, no, no. As long as the report is on time, is accurate, no issue, then wherever that you work is okay. Now, let's bring it back to now, the current times. I think with the current time, it's much easier for us to track the performance, provided we have a standard measure. That standard measurement is important. People come, okay, this is, I think some of us are also, what you call, the culprit part of it. They come day one, we load them with SOP, tons of SOP, but we never tell them how do we are going to measure success with them. That's why I always ask every consulting project or any training they ask, how does success look like? So that you can visualize. Say, for example, okay, Mr. A, you are coming to us. Within the first week, we're going to develop your performance deliverables. Okay, these are required from you, and these are the assistance that company going to give. Within the next 3 months, within the next 6 months, this is what we're going to see. And trust me, if our performance management are transparent and people know we are measuring using the SMART concept or whatever concept that we use, it's easy for us to pen down where they do better, where they do the just barely minimum or fall below the line. And this is where I encourage, especially at the SME, talking about the trust just now, if you empower them with the right environment, then there's no issue about the trust, because at the end of the day, I want to see the results. I don't want to see the attendance. It's not about your presence. It's about your performance. So if we measure that correctly, and yeah, people do take break, a short one. Talking about optimization, I have done one manpower study. Most organization, their optimization probably at what, 85, 90%, because the other 10% are all the ad hoc or not to say unproductive, but other miscellaneous job. So if we look at that, if we measure performance correctly, that's why the quality guru always mention, what get measured get improved. But you must measure the right thing. Don't simply measure time. Because if they just sit there, last week I got one very good discussion with one of the client. They say, yeah, this guy looks smart. 9 to 6, no issue in the office. Hardly remove his eye from the PC. But month end, no report. So then I say, the guy is experienced guy. But then from 9 to 6, he no, he just sit there doing and very diligently, but no outcome. Then it become an issue of what do you measure? What do you pay? The other question is, we are paying you. We don't pay you just to sit there and earn your salary. No, you must do some work.
So I think I want to be as brutal as possible, to employees, and also echoing what you've just said. An organization that is fearful of employees working from home, right? I'm also not a fan of working from home, but let's put that aside. Let's put that aside. One of the reasons why bosses are always concerned of is because, number one, we did not set the right KPI for the employee. Number two, we do not know how to measure those achievements, those KPI. Number three, the managerial capability is also lacking, right? If let's say we appoint or we hire a manager who do not have the ability to allocate tasks, to measure, to monitor, etc., the whole thing fails, right? So these are some of the issues that we have. And the world is moving, right? The world is moving, but if we are lagging behind, your competitors, companies around us are moving forward, implementing this, implementing that, automating this, automating that, but we are still stuck here, right? Still left behind because of that concern on trust, concern on this, and concern on that. And Vivina just asked this question, which I think quite relates to what we have just said. How do you reckon Malaysia's job that is being affected with the changes in the world today? Right? Any bright ideas? Bright ideas, Any bright ideas for Malaysia to handle this?
Okay, this is where I think we must come out from our cocoon. We must look at what is out there. Okay, one good example, Adobe have removed the performance appraiser years ago. Rather than they do performance appraisal, they do periodic reporting. So you don't have to ask, because every month you have one-on-one. And they don't do feedback, they do feed forward. So you need to follow whatever that is best practice out there and adopt it to Malaysia. Okay, you see, the global. Okay, let's look at one of the global things that people talk about, like Chat GPT, AI, and all this. Some are reluctant to move on. To me, no. You must be on the bandwagon. Example of Chat GPT. Yesterday, I have this discussion, a very lengthy one, about how do we bring it into our workforce. I said, yes, you can bring it into your workforce, but the fundamentals must be there. Example, there's one, if I'm not mistaken, in UK, this lawyer is using it for a litigation case. Yes, the case passed through, but because you don't understand the fundamental, then it goes haywire. Same like in us in HR, we do Chat GPT, and suddenly you say, okay, I'm looking at this. What are the best way? Then it will give you ways and means. But as a good practitioner, don't take it at surface level, because it's only a machine learning. The machine tell you. So you need to use your brain. Is it applicable? And this is where technology, digitalization, the automation. Example, uh, I think about 3 weeks back, I have this discussion with one company. They are doing surveying. Prior to that, I was in part of Sarawak. I'm doing one of the program, a clashes between old surveyor and the new surveyor. The old surveyor said, no, need to go on the ground, pull the thing and measure and everything. Then the new one says, no, no, boss, we have LiDAR, we have drone, we fly the drone measure every single thing. Then why are we on the ground? We only need to visit once a month just to verify the data because already got daily data. But if you need to go down on the ground, your daily cost and moving. Okay, remember in Sabah and Sarawak, it is not like us in Peninsula. We got so many highways. So if you go in, probably you're going to come back after the following week, not tomorrow. And it is proven that they use the drone, and the drone really cost saving, if I'm not mistaken, at that time about 42 to 48% of the manpower cost and also of the cheating. Because you may say you go, but then you pretend and nobody knows. But if you fly the drone goes in the morning, then come back. Then you already know in the afternoon you fly again the drone, then come back. Then you know what's the difference. And this is where most organization now they think if I if I have the possibility of automate it, I will automate because of the people issue coming late to measure performance. Like just now you mentioned, you are in the office, but what 50%, 60%, the 40% goes somewhere else. Nobody monitor.
I think the bigger deal for Malaysia, I mean, if I may say so, is this. We have been too reliant on cheap labor. That's why we are so reliant on foreign workers. And you hear every now and then, we need foreign workers. If you don't allow foreign workers, our industry is going to crumble, etc. And how long are we going to compete in this space of cheap labor? Right? That's the first question. Second question is, when are we going to move up the value chain? Now, I just compare, Malaysia and Singapore, for example. I know Singapore also relies on foreign labor. We also rely on foreign labor, but I believe our reliance on foreign labor is much greater in Singapore, right? Whether it's plantation, whether it's this and so on. We get excited when we get foreign direct investment, because we say, okay, companies are investing, but companies are investing in areas where we got to keep on hiring foreigners. So if we don't embrace technology, if we don't embrace, productivity, I believe we may be stuck in this for the longest period, right? Especially manufacturing, those industries that's very relevant on labor. And there's also a question here. Let me see, which one was that? Okay. There's a LinkedIn user says this. So today we have got users from LinkedIn, Facebook, as well as YouTube. Yep. So it says this. He says this: I believe working from home is only applicable for certain industries. For hospitality especially, work from home practice might affect their performance outcome. And I think you have mentioned just now, certain processes couldn't be done, from home. But when we say flexibility, it's not just about place of work. It is place of work, hours of work, and days of work, right? So providing flexibility is not just about working away from the office, but it can be place and hours. So what could someone in the hospitality sector, take note of when it comes to flexi work arrangement?
Okay, I have this. I think it's a what I call exciting experience during the MCO. Okay, during the MCO, I was assigned to do certain projects which requires me to go out of the boundary that you got to go to the police and apply and whatever. So one fine day I got project which is cross border, cross district. So I went to one hotel, and I can't recall which hotel it is, but the best part, during my 3 days, 2 nights there, not a single staff I met. Check in, you're using kiosk. You put in your IC, you key in your confirmation numbers. Then they says, okay, Mr. Sulaiman, your room is 201. Okay. Pay 20 ringgit for your key card deposit. I pay 20 ringgit, I got one key card. Okay. Then question there, when do you want to service your room? Then they put a time. Okay. Pick a time. Then that's it. Then there's nobody at the lobby.
And this is Malaysia.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Somewhere in Puchong. I can't recall now.
Okay.
Then the third day, I was to check out. Okay. Then once you go to the kiosk, you put in the key card, the 20 ringgit come out. Then thank you, Mrs. Sulaiman. Your receipt, we email it to you. Zero paper, nothing. The room is clean. Okay. Now let's look at on flexibility on hospitality or service. Okay. One good question. How many of us do analytics in the data that we have? Probably. We have tons of data, but we did not know. Okay. Okay. I was a hotelier before. So I know when is the peak time that people come in for check-in. So we know now the check-in time is 3 and above. But normally people will start queuing at 12. After lunch, they already queue. They stand in front of the reception. Okay, how do you know? And this is where data will turn into information. So then you know, okay, this is our peak period. How do we do? And how do you go on flexi? You need to combine between the people and the automation. Like the hotel that I mentioned is just a 3-star hotel, not a big one. So then I start to realize there's something that we can do on the flexible. On the flexible, the thing is, it is not just work from home. It is how we make sure that the effort turn into outcome. So now, instead of, say, for example, you know, okay, to clean up a room or to service. And this is why I only encourage in hospitality is all about the service. So how do we make the service tip top? Then our standard must be there. In terms of maintaining the standard, we are not only looking at the volume part, we are also looking at consistency. Consistency. Rather than say today, I come, all the orders are correct. But tomorrow I come, then the orders go haywire. So now this is where the automation will help. And especially in hospitality, we fail to understand our customer. Okay, I was once quite a frequent traveler, the time that I work in Labuan. They already know what kind of pillow that I require, what kind of rooms that I require. I said rooms must always be away from elevator because I'm light sleeper. So every time the elevator thing, I wake up. So they know, oh, if Mr. Sulaiman check in, give him the furthest room from the elevator. Where they got that data? Because I tell them. And they keep it. And this is where I encourage the hospitality. You got tons of information which are critical. Use it. Because now, if I log in into Agoda or whatever, they will ask, what time are you checking in? There's the data already. Are you checking in for business or what? But do you use that data? Probably. Okay, this is how. You want to work flexible. Certain hours are blocked out because you know people are not there. So people want to click, say for example, want to click 5:15. Then you know 5:15 is your break time. Then so this is how you use system to embed that.
I think, I mean, something new I've listened today, right? How this hotel has automated their check-in process, right? And you probably don't need someone there, or maybe just one person, for troubleshooting. So I think to answer this question from this LinkedIn user, he says about for hospitality, but I think whether it's hospitality, whether it's F&B or any industry that requires the person's presence on site, we can still maneuver things around to some extent. May not be entirely, but to some extent. And there's also a question from, I mean, it's not really a question, but yeah, it's a question from Adlan Lucas Maro. And he's asked this: when we give employees autonomy to work from home or anywhere, it translates into a bigger challenge for the company's culture building process, right? Because, people are away. And this is a common scenario today. There are people who's working from home. There are people who report to work. The first day is at home, right? There's no orientation like what we used to do the good old days. No orientation, no onboarding. So everybody is they are at their own space, and they don't interact. And interaction via Zoom is limited. So the company culture that has got to be a very strong culture now faces a challenge. How
Okay.
can this be eliminated or at least minimized?
Okay. I'm now putting my cap as an organizational development person, looking from a culture perspective. Okay. You must remember, culture is not something that is automatically driven, but culture is where the company want to drive certain things, looking at certain standards. Okay. Let's look at a very traditional office setup. They wear jackets, tie, and whatever, very what you call straight looking firm. But then, is that the culture that we want to build? And actually, culture, if you look at the iceberg of culture, there's a lot of belief that is in the company which are not seen outside. So how do you build the right culture with this hybrid kind of things? Okay, this is where most organization which build a good what we call work from home or hybrid, they have this what we call engagement activities. And trust me, gamification is one way moving ahead. Okay, I still recall one of the company that I work with. Okay, I worked with 9 companies before I become a freelancer. In that company, during lunch hour, if we have nothing, we play PS4. At that time, PS4 lah. Now I do not know what version it is. Then I start to look at the top management. Why are you putting PS4 in the lobby? Then they say, guys, this is where we engage our people because the younger generation have that in mind. They're not like the older one where we sit down together, do team building or whatever. They enjoy the gamification, and this gamification really builds culture because they collect points. From the points, they are the top tier, they are the top 10, top 5 or whatever. Then on yearly basis, what they have is they just have either one big annual event for everybody, and this is where the top management will do their town halls. A very short one is, even though it's 3 days 2 nights, but the events are intertwined with the company cultures building. And how do we create the engagement? We reinforce the positive behavior. Okay, sorry guys, most company, they caught you doing the wrong thing, which I don't like. You must caught the people doing the right thing, then you encourage positive reinforcement. It's like, say for example, the police stop you, then suddenly the police say, good job, you are driving within the speed limit.
Fantastic.
Then you got all of congratulations, because normally the police they say you drive over the speed limit. So this is where we need to turn the mindset. And yes, it is a challenge to build a culture remotely, but it is not impossible. So it must be embraced from top to bottom.
Well, I think another option for employees, with all this thing said, gamification. Yes, I agree with you. And just quite recently, I had a chance to look at the Budaya app. This is an app somebody presented to us by Leaderonomics, right? It's called Budaya app, and it basically takes into account what you've just mentioned, right? It takes into account what you've just mentioned. Thanks a lot. Do you want one? Okay. So it takes into account what you've just mentioned. So it allows employees to interact without even meeting each other. I'm sure there are many apps out there. So Budaya is just one of them. And I think for employees is this. Now, I wouldn't want to practice if I were to ever introduce a work from home or flexi work arrangement. I would not build a very rigid work from home policy. For example, if you need to go, please go. If you need to work from home, please work from home. But otherwise, come to office. We give you the flexibility. You do not need to ask for permission. If you want to wait, you want to be away from home tomorrow, just keep us informed, right? So I think that kind of flexibility, fluidity in our process also helps to some extent. Once in a while, you got to mingle. Otherwise, we can also use all this gamification app and so on. And, okay, I would like to move on to the topic of benefits, right? Flexi work is one benefit. Now, Employment Act 1955, right? I always tell people this Employment Act 1955. So it started way back in 1955. Now, some of the entitlements, yes, over the years, reviewed and so on. But annual leave of 8 days, I know the law says that this is minimum, right? Employment Act provides minimum. The law also says under Section 7, you can give anything more than minimum, right? It's up to you. Do you think 8 days per year is still relevant today?
Okay, let's put it in context, okay? First thing first, those days we work 6 days a week, then it shot down five and a half, then 5 alternate Saturdays. Now most companies 5 days, even though there's most companies still 6 days. Okay, but we must remember, if we look at it, let's talk about PWD, prime working days. Okay, this is another analytics that HR guys please do. Our what we call PWD, not the what we call the public work. No, not public work department. No, okay, it's prime working day. Okay, in a year we got 52 weeks. So if your work day is only 5 days a week, means you got to 52 times 2 is 104. Means 365, you got minus 104. It's already 200 over. Okay, bear in mind, guys, Malaysia, we are lavish with public holidays. Announced, unannounced, suddenly this and that, win football and whatever. So that's another thing. And 8 days, yes, if you look at it at minimum, bare minimum, you divide it by 12, you won't get 1 month. So you get what? 3 months, 2 days. 3 months, 2 days. But this is another part where if you want to attract your employees, you must be above than the market, you must be better. And pitching at benefits, because you say, for example, you work 5 days a week. So if you take 8 days a year, yes, it looks what we call small. But to a certain extent, you plus all the public holidays, we got roughly about what, 17, 16, 17. If you are in Sabah and Labuan, you got more because they got Deepavali and they got the Keamatan, which we don't have. Okay. So, and this is the angle that employees must appreciate why it started at 8. And I think mostly, most company is at 12 on average, looking at MEF report. But at the same time, the incremental, even though, say, for example, we propose from 8 just become 10, can you imagine the impact to the bottom line? So that's where employers most employers, they are still giving the bare minimum, which is 8. But looking into probably maybe 5 or 6 years, if they amended the law, that is something to me. If they want to amend, they must also study what is the cost implication, because we are now coming up with a lot of things. We got the progressive salary, the maternity goes already 98 days, and whatever, and the paternity also included. So if we, this is, I encourage the HR practitioner, you must also know how to do your numbers, your budget, to be fair to the company, because we can simply increase, then suddenly they ask, hey HR, why you how much? We must know what is the impact to the bottom line, because we are also the business partner to the company.
I think I picked up something from what you've just said from a different angle. So if an organization provides bare minimum 8 days of annual leave, bare minimum public holidays, which is 11 days, and of course paternity is 7 days and maternity is 98 days. Now, as compared to an employee who's a bit more generous, annual leave, let's say 14 days, public holiday, let's say 16 days, and they work 6 days. The first scenario, everything is bare minimum. 6 days work, 12 hours per day, 8 days annual leave, 11 days public holiday. As compared to a company that's a bit more generous, 5 days work, 12 hours of, 12 or 14 days of annual leave, 16 days of public holiday. Now, can this company still make money? Can still be profitable?
Yes.
So why are this company taking the same approach? Meaning that instead of giving all bare minimum, we become more competitive. We become, so that we are in line with market practices. We don't lose out in attracting talents. But can we remain, are we still viable? Can we still remain competitive?
We always look at just the intake. We never think about what is the cost of losing a staff. I have done this back in 1996. I got a boss which are very calculative. I still what I call appreciate the experience, because he said, Sulaiman, you must count every single thing. And at that material time, what we do is we calculate the cost of losing one staff. And the actual cost of losing one staff is 6 months salary. So if you are paying the staff 3,000, you just 9. So you're losing 18,000. So if you bring that into your pre-cost, then the staff stay, then your productivity is going to go up. And at the same time, you are able to pinch the best. Because you see, if you are bare minimum, you want to pinch, people want to come to you, you only offer bare minimum, okay lah. You are not in my list. You already. But if you are at certain benefits, then people say, oh yeah, I work for that company, I got this.
Exactly.
Even though they work me out or whatever, but I still get the better benefit.
That's true. And I mean, I always share this in my trainings. Annual leave 8 days, right? I mean, if let's say our work arrangement is 5 days work, public holiday, we're quite okay. I think 8 days, 10 days still okay lah, boleh lah. But when we give bare minimum, right? for some employees, I don't know whether you agree with me, now sick leave and hospitalization leave is separated, right? So it's 14 plus 60, no longer 14, which is part of 60. So now it's 74 days. For some employees, sick leave, in their mind, ini adalah cuti tahunan tambahan. So when we give bare minimum annual leave, they will take public sick leave, right? And worst case, when companies don't provide annual leave during probation. I know the law says that annual leave entitlement is given to them after completing 12 months, right? The law says it. But we can always make it more favorable by providing from day one or at least after probation. But when we don't give them during probation, for the employee, very simple. How would I, if I have an emergency, what do I do? If I take annual leave, unpaid leave, my salary dah lah 1,500 and I have to take unpaid leave. So what do? They take sick leave. And when they take sick leave, annual leave, the cost is 60 ringgit for those 1,500. But if I take sick leave, we still have to pay them for the day, which is 60 ringgit. Plus I got to pay the MC cost, another 60 ringgit. So pay one time or two time. What say you?
Okay, I still recall one of the funny part. I went into the lift to my client place. In front of me, there's two senior managers, this is somewhere, I think, August come September, close to the year end. You know what the senior manager is asking the other senior manager? Hey, how many annual leave you have yet to, how many MC you have yet to utilize this year? Means they are looking at MC as a benefit to them. And actually, benefit of MC is double the cost, what like we mentioned. There's no productivity, you are paying salary, and you are paying the medical. So three, overtime. Somebody need to cover the job. And this is where, if you look at most company, what they do, they give additional, what you call annual leave, and the annual leave are prorated. And you can see the pattern of MC is not there. And true, if you are during probation, say within 3 months, you're not allowed to take annual leave. Yes, you're going to utilize your MC. And yesterday, there was a funny part. Yesterday, one of the guy text me, Sulaiman, this medical leave, the person just joined us 1 month, and only for this month, he already utilized 8 MC. Then I said, something wrong somewhere. Then I said, what do you mean? I said, probably your intake, your medical checkup is not thorough. Or there could be something that pushing this person to take 8 days MC within 1 month. So you need to look at both. So, and this is where one company that I work with, they even cut your bonus pool if you take excessive MC. How do they determine excessive MC? They take average of everybody. Normally, average of everybody within a year is 5 days. So if you take more than that, then you will cut. And then the following year, the trend is getting better. So you don't have any more that excessive MC.
Well, I think that's a good point. So Eng says this, even if you give them 16 days annual leave, they will still take sick leave, right? So what I would do is, yes, we give you the annual leave. We can always control the sick leave, right? Now, if we don't have a proper medical process management, right? We don't have proper policy, a governance structure to govern our sick leave and hospitalization entitlement, then people tend to, take it just like that. But for me, as an employer myself, I always ask myself the harder question. Before I blame the employee, why is he or why is she taking this leave? What have I done to cause them to take this? Because, I always have this notion that people don't become problematic out of the sudden. They become problematic because of something. Could it be the leadership issue? Could it be a culture issue? Could it be a other people issue or process issue? The personal issue, I put it aside. I can tell you so far in my engagement with employers, with employees and discussions, most of the people issues are created by company. So if we can influence this, this can be influenced, but we can't influence a person's private issues, right? But what we can influence is issues that cause people to, to be less motivated. I just give a very simple example. Now, to all the HR practitioners listening today, when was the last time we reviewed employees' career progression? Have we checked our employees? How long have they been in the same job grade and and why are they in the same job grade? So let's say now if this particular employee, and this is a real case that happened, so I was told that this employee, this was with my former employer, this employee is demotivated. We see that this employee only cukup makan. When we open up the personal file, we realize that same job grade for 7 years. So when HR look at the person, problematic. But why is this person problematic? Because when they become demotivated, they start to withdraw. They're still there physically. That's the dangerous part. They're still there physically. They start to withdraw. But when HR look at them, problematic, not supportive, and so on. But what caused it? Shouldn't we look at this angle?
This is the OD perspective that we look at. We will start with inquiry mindset. Because most of us, we are trying to do shortcuts. So what we do, we take the blame way. We blame. Oh, you are not doing this, you are not doing that. But if we go on inquiry mode, first we say, okay, what happened? Likewise, you said, which is correctly, none of us come to work to do mistake. None of us come to work and do misconduct. No. There could be something that triggering that. And one incident that I handled in, I think, September, one company, what they did was, okay, you remember the minimum salary was adjusted back in 2022, May. The minimum salary from 1,003 moved into 1,005. Yes, they moved the minimum, but they don't change the ceiling. So the older guys are, salary capping is at 2001, not moving for 4 years already. The junior one are joining at 1,005. So what happened to these people? Then he says, oh, I'm already 30 years with that company. Nobody count my loyalty. So now I cannot move. Because why? There's no box for me to move up. And when there's no box to move up, they just do the bare minimum. Yeah, they don't do any misconduct. They come on time. The productivity just to meet. So that you won't take action as poor performer. But in terms of morale, in terms of what we call the motivation, there's none. Because they just come to, I do what I do. I don't even think about how do I grow. And what they are thinking now, even in terms of doing OT, they don't want. Because to them, if I do OT, like they go gig or whatever, I do part-time selling things or whatever, I got more. And this is where if company don't look at career progression, it will eat your retention strategy. And one company that I worked last time, on yearly basis, while you are filling up your appraisal form, at the back there, they will ask you 3 questions. 1, are you okay with your current post? Number 2, are you thinking of moving into other department? Number 3, if you want to move, which department? So they take that and they do population, you know. And some, yes, they are happy where they are. They don't want to be disturbed. But some, they say, okay, Sulaiman, I want to move into this area. Then we do a random check. Say, why do you want to pick up this? Sulaiman, I saw an opportunity here. Example, one of the guy want to move from finance to, not IT, finance to customer service. Then they said, Sulaiman, I saw an opportunity because our touch point, because we call it a touch point, there's a lot of improvement that can be done. Then I asked the guy, what can you do? Oh, we are looking from this angle because finance is normally the back end. They got scolded if things are not being paid or whatever. But then they realized it is not their problem. It is somebody else's problem. Now they are biting the bullet because they are being shot at. So, and this is where company must be open. And especially with the Gen Z in our environment, sorry guys, they keep comparing themselves.
Yep. But HR mana ada masa, right? HR is busy, who's in, who's out, paperwork here, paperwork there, cutting overtime here, saving a little bit of money here, switching off lights, right? HR is, busy and, inundated with work. Sometimes, I'm a HR practitioner myself, right? Sometimes I ask myself, are we really HR? Or are we a highly paid administrative clerk, right? Are we really doing HR job? Because employers, the bosses, sometimes they don't know what they don't know. They think that as HR, you got to do, make sure that people are paid, make sure this and that, etc. But as HR, yes, those are things that fundamental tasks we have to do, but simplify it. If there's low risk, maybe don't do it, but focus on value add, career progression, competency, and all the things I've mentioned. But if HR is going to be busy with all the paperwork, the highly, clerical task, we can never move up the value chain. And, that goes, to another point that I have in my mind. Why aren't we paying for productivity? How many employees out there, we pay for productivity, we pay for competency, we pay for results. So, I attended a talk by Datuk Sri Idris Jala, I was just saying just now. And I hope I got the numbers correctly, because this was some time ago when Datuk Sri Idris Jala, took up the CEO position in MAS, and he was wondering why MAS is not able to collect the excess baggage like some other airlines, right? And so what he did was, he did some studies and he realized that people are not collecting. I mean, they were collecting. If I remember the figures correctly, they were collecting some 30 million or so per year excess baggage, or 50. I just can't recall the exact number. And what he did was, he just made a very simple approach. He told those people at the counters, please collect the excess baggage. Now, whatever money collected over and above the current revenue, the current collection, 50% will be given back to you as an incentive. Zoop, the thing went up. I call it win-win. Did the company lose money? No. We made more money than before. Plus, employees are happy because they are rewarded. But not everyone sees it this way. Bosses will always find ways how to squeeze the last dollar. Don't pay this, don't pay that. How can we change this mindset?
Yeah. One funny project that I did back in, I think, year 2004, 2005. Okay, it's about meter reader. They are, not to mention name, okay, it's a meter reader, it's a utility company.
Okay.
So what they did was, these are their staff. So what they do is, on daily basis, they read only 80 meters. But then the company think, how do we make they become more productive? So what they do, they outsource the process. Then they says, whoever that scored this number to this number got this commission. Who scored between this and this got this commission. And surprisingly, the same person previously reading 80 meters per day can read 200 meters in a day, because it's commission. So now, employers, you must know how to manage the levers. And if you know WIIFM, what's in it for me is the money, then you push for money. Okay, one good example which I think we in HR especially, we need to think about how do we propagate the ideas of commission into a fixed income. Okay, this is the time that I was with one of the IT company. Even if you are in after sales, you get 10% of the commission. Some after sales, okay, people come and repair the computer, that's it, you got nothing. So now for these people, they got that 10%. And that 10% is depending on how fast you do the job, what is the quality like. So if you do the job fast and the quality is good, then you get more. 10% is only the budget. So sometimes you get more. And this is where I encourage employers to look at the productivity link wage system, because it gives both party benefit, rather than employee says, oh, the company make money, but our benefits are still the same.
So usually the sales guys are rewarded.
Yep.
Because sales guys, they bring in sales, they're rewarded. But all the support stuff, like after sales, right? They're not. They just gaji mati lah, gaji pokok, and that's it. So thank God, I know, I'm proud to say this. I don't know whether my team here agrees to it. At our place HR forum, what we do is, the sales guy get a sales commission. But because, people like Adlain and Harith and all these guys, Amira and all that, because Indra and Fadzul, because they enable, right? Like the podcast today, somebody's got to make this happen. I'm sure from this podcast, there's some benefits that we gain out of it, or the webinars and this and that, etc. So 5% of our profit is shared with the support staff, because they feel valued, that, okay, the more I do, the more traction, the more this I get. But how many are doing this, right? So it's not just the sales guy who's bringing in sales, but those who are servicing those sales must also be rewarded, right? Okay, so I think that's very much about revenue for us, right? Sorry, on competitive thing. Now, let me just take you to another spectrum of things, which is about engagement, right? Maybe you're older than me, I'm younger than you. You believe in engagement? Yeah. I don't believe in engagement, right? So there's a clash here now. Usually the older generation won't believe in engagement because they, hard knock. right? But for me is, why do we need engagement campaigns? And can we do with engagement campaigns? Because HR is already very busy, right? Our job description is built in a way that 100% of our time, or even more than 100% time, is taken away. And on top of that, we have got engagement, mental health awareness day, and all those pom-pom dance in the office. But we have no time. Is this engagement campaigns and engagement initiatives, motivation, is it really necessary? Is there any other option to do away with this engagement, but still bring the organization to that level?
Okay, let me share with you one of the experience that I work for multinational. Okay, in multinational, they don't call engagement as engagement. They blend it with your daily things. So it become part and parcel of your things that you do. One of the good things is I was given a budget of 200,000 USD just to do sports for my manufacturing plant. And I found out, wow, it's a huge money. But actually, they don't call it engagement. They build in between. Example, if we are now on quality drive. So what they do is basically they pump in all the quality things, but never call. Okay, one thing we get it wrong. We get it wrong is because we always put it on HR shoulder. No, it is at the top management. The engagement must start from top. Because if you see, once you carry the flag of HR, people say, oh, that's HR initiative. I try to shy away from it. Okay, one experience that I have working for one of the consulting firm, we do CSR. And actually, the CSR is basically an engagement activity. We don't call it an engagement. And the younger generation somehow, if your company doesn't have CSR, then they look at you like one kind. How come you don't have tree planting, go green or whatever? Because these people are looking at that. And we blend it to become at least once a month. You will have all this engagement activity, but never call it as an engagement. We sit down, do teh tarik session. We have what we call lunch and learn kind of things. We have also sharing what you do. We call it day in a life, dial. What do you do? Example, you are a technician. Nobody knows what you do. So we have somebody follow with a camera. Then we make day in a life. Oh, that's what you do. And it is important for your career progression, career management, because then I say, oh, if I want to move into that role, oh, that's the guy. And the best part is we got because we are the HRBP, all the HRBP must pitch for the people to join them, the other HR to join them. So we have our recruitment, internal recruitment days. We do our walk around, and then we as the head, we says, okay, Arul, come join us. This is the happiness that if you join our manufacturing line, you got this and this and this. Then somebody from the call center will also do their dance and whatever. And that's how we attract and we keep it pure, but we never call it as an engagement.
I think the day in a life is what my ex company did as well. Now, what if I look at it from another viewpoint? See, employees come to an organization, or employees join us for what reason? They want to have a meaningful career, competitive benefits, competitive wages or salaries, and so on, trust and respect, a very harmonious work environment. Now, if this is present, do we need engagement, or people would be self-motivated?
Let's look at the theory exercise. Some people are self-motivated, some need some drive. Okay, if things are what you mentioned, they have a meaningful work and whatever, this probably the environment, it will be a self-starter. Then do you need a pure engagement? Probably not. But let's look at it from the other angle. Uh, because motivation up and down. So once it is down, we need to do some booster. So at that booster, probably if you want to look at it, is how we keep it as long as possible, as what we call as strong as possible. Because you see, people have their ups and down time. So how do we keep them on the toe? Yes, salary, but salary will be until up to a point, we got a budget constraint. Okay, work environment, yeah, it is a cordial family work environment, but to a point, then there's none. And remember, guys, if you are working, you spend 1/3 of your time in the office. So if the office are not conducive, the office are not friendly, the office have what we call no career movement, then you're going to work short. So this is where the engagement, we don't simply park it as one initiative. It must be embedded together. Because if you split it, then people see, oh, that is engagement objective. This is retention objectivity. Then it become this disconnect. And HR, we have more things to do.
Okay, so that's good. Yeah. I've just got a input from Adeline. My past employee said CSR is a kind of engagement. Sorry, CSR or kind of engagement is a reward for high performance employee, or is it for all employees?
Okay, you see, the challenge of us, we keep saying about the top performer, but we never talk about the solid performer, the army on the ground. Okay, if you use the 9 box, you only look at the top 3 box. But then you have the middle one, which are roughly between 60% of your population, and these are solid performer. They perform. So, and you can't have everybody on top, which is almost impossible. So I don't take it CSR as the reward. I will use different mode of reward for the top performer, because I don't want to differentiate them too much so that they will draw the line. Oh, you are top performer, so you go for this. I don't want to participate. Then you lose the continuity, you lose the momentum. So we need also to empower the what we call the solid performer through, it could be CSR or could be any engagement, but there must be a specific initiative to connect them.
Probably, Adeline is probably saying CSR, probably external CSR, you get to travel and so on. Okay.
I'm not sure.
Okay. Now, well, I want to bring you to the issue. Let's talk about performance. Now, let's say we have 4 rating, right? A, B, C, D. Let's assume 4 rating, A, B, C, D. And A is always those extending or outstanding performer, those who exceed, we reward them, we promote them, grow them, and so on. B are those who meet. Of course, the D performer goes into PIP, right? Because D is poor, you go to PIP. But what about C performers? Because sometimes some companies, the C performers, they don't disturb them because you're not a poor performer, therefore you don't go to PIP. But you also did not meet target. So 3 years ago C, last year C, this year C, C. What do you want to see? So how do we manage? Because these are the guys I feel the time bomb, right? The C performers that we just don't touch them because they're not poor, so we say no PIP. But they are the time bomb. Your comment on that?
Okay, let's be realistic on part of it lah. If we have A, B, C, and D, then the C, what are we supposed to do with them? That's why in most organizations that I work, even though you are not the top performer, if you are on PIP, different story, but you are on the tail end, we still look at it. And if you are not a promotable item between 3 years to 5 years max, then we got to think in terms of rotation or enlargement, depending where you are. Because you see, probably there's no box on top that you cannot move. But is there any lateral box you can move? Probably yes. So this is where, as a HR practitioner, your computation or your formulation of career is not always upwards. If you are looking upwards, the box are very limited. But if you look at lateral, okay, this is where if you talk about succession planning, you can simply, a person who are so technically sound in only one area, nothing else than that, for him to become the C-suite, you will have a tough challenge. So then think about lateral. If your organization are flat, it's okay. But if your organization are tall, then you only very limited spot on top. So balance the aspiration, but bear in mind there are some people who are just doing that so that he won't be disturbed in any point.
So what if we don't have room for lateral movement, and there's also no room for vertical movement? Let's say, for example, maybe the organization is flat and they don't have much opportunity, maybe because skill set or maybe because of whatever factors beyond the company's control. So there's no upwards, there's no sidewards. What can a company do?
I always encourage in this mode. Yes, you may not have in terms of lateral, means you cannot swap. Then what you need to do is you also need to look at the current one where we talk about the T concept of competency. Your breadth in terms of your areas. Example, if you're in HR, and you are so engrossed in doing IR and you are the expert in IR, let's shadow a little bit about maybe CMB or shadow a little bit about LND. Okay, I always encourage this job shadowing, not extending 30%. 70% is your core, then the 30% I shadow. Okay, why you need to also shadow? Because you are in the same cloud and sometimes you need to support the other side. And if you fail to understand the other side, how do you support? So that's why concept of shadowing, don't do, okay, shadow normally you don't go that far lah. It's just you learn a little bit about the job, you involve certain parts of the project, then you back on your core work. Then at least if you're not grown in terms of your position, but your skill inventory grows.
That's something to look at. And Firhana, one of our listeners, asked this: what if the employee who's being rotated shows no improvement and says that he or she is better in the previous position?
I always say this: you must have your safety net. Why I said safety net is basically some people, if you read about Peter's principle, you are good there. Then why disturb? So and this is where we have the opportunity. We test you and I always encourage, don't make it so rigid so that once you are transferred, you are not allowed to. And one of the company that I work just now, I mentioned every year and they will ask you, this is the opportunity for us to discover internal before even we offer external people. So what is your fallback plan? So say for example, you say, okay, we do rotation maybe in the first 3 months, then see the fitness. Because some people, they have yet to discover their unknown. Oh, suddenly oh, I can do this. Oh, I don't like this. And then at least as a company perspective, we have tested and say that you can't perform anywhere, then you sit there. And this is where, like I mentioned, the solid performer, we need to keep them because we need them to fight the war.
So, Adlan, because Maruf asked this, it's a bit long, but let me read it to you. Businesses need to run and run effectively so that they remain relevant. Hence, there are times where company is banking on the same bunch of stuff to complete the task. And little did they realize, it becomes a performance punishment, where the great bunch are given more and more work. The high performers are given more and more work until they're tired. And so understand that we will go, with trust and opportunity, etc. I trust you, I give you the opportunity, but how to manage this so that they don't become tired and one day they said, I think it's enough, right?
This is the issue of we are penalizing the top performer. Okay, because if we have an urgent thing, we give the top performer. If we have a very highly, what we call sensitive project, we give it to the top performer. If we have something that the board, we look at it, we give the top performer. So what happened with the rest? Okay, the rest are just sitting down, earning their money, and nothing happened to them. Yeah. Okay, this is where I always say to the middle manager. Okay, the issue is always with the middle management and the top because we trusted this person so much. So what happened? We bought them with too much. And remember, guys, about we talk about burnout, we talk about mental issue, and these are real. And if your top performer leave the room, then you are in trouble because for you to replace the person, it takes time. So that's why I always encourage the shadow. Okay, yes, you have an important thing to do. Okay, that's why if you use the box of the important urgent, then you know how to manage. And this is the skill set, guys. Sorry, we did not train our middle manager to do.
Exactly.
How to empower, how to delegate.
True.
So what they do, they look at you, oh, you can do. So I'll pass
Yes.
every single thing to you.
I just wanted to say that, right? If we don't have capable and competent managers, this is the exact outcome, right? So you see, as a manager, he or she would have, X number of people reporting to them. Now, it is his role or her role to ensure that the 5 or 6 or whatever number of people, everybody works at optimum, everybody is empowered, everybody is given the responsibility, the reward, and so on. That's why I always wonder, when we look at football, are you a football fan? No, okay. So when we look at the football teams, right, the top-notch football team, Manchester United, Arsenal, Liverpool, Real Madrid, Barcelona, etc. The moment if your performance drop a little, please go out or you're benched, right? Because they want to keep that pace, that high performance pace. So everybody is forced to work hard. But here, the guy who works hard is punished, The rest all, okay lah, I just come, cukup makan, 9 o'clock, 6 o'clock, what is there to work hard? And they start poisoning others, right? They start pulling down the organization, but these poor guys at the top, like what, who's this, Adlan says, they are being punished. So I think it's the role of the manager. I don't blame the leadership because the leadership has appointed you to run your team. So you need to ensure that everybody in your team works hard. They're given, the right tools. They're given the right training. We build the competency. That's why, I always am puzzled with companies. Why are we not building capability? Why are we not building competencies? So if we don't do it, then unfortunately, the same guy is going to work harder and harder. And one day he's going to say, Sulaiman, I can't work for you anymore. I'm tired. I'm going. Okay. So, we got just another few more minutes. And yep. I think so. We spoke a little bit on performance. We've spoken a little bit on this. Now, what is your advice to companies who are struggling today, not able to survive? So I met a group of hoteliers, right? I was talking to a group of hoteliers, budget hoteliers, and I was sharing with them what are the amendments. And then there's this one gentleman, he stood up and he says that, as a budget hotel, we can't survive because with all these changes, I got to give now paternity leave, maternity leave, sick leave is more, flexi work, work hours reduced. It is going to increase our costs. I can't afford it. And he's eating up. As it is, I'm not making money. And with all these changes, I think I'm going to collapse. So I told him this. I said, let's look at it from another angle. Let's take a step back. Now, I noticed budget hotels, right? For example, if you go to KL Central, there's, the whole entire road, to Sambandan Road, there's a lot of budget hotels. And because I used to put some of my staff there when I was running my operations back in KL Central, there's this particular budget hotel, their price is not budget at all, 100 ringgit plus per night, always fully booked. But there's cheaper hotels that you can always find rooms. So then I always wonder why this hotel is able to charge premium for budget hotel. Because budget hotel in our mind is always 50 ringgit, 60 ringgit, 70 ringgit a night. But this hotel charges 100 plus and it's always full house. But the other hotels that charges 40, 50, 60 ringgit always got rooms. So I wonder, why can this hotelier improve your service, improve your business, charge your clients a little bit more, which I think they're happy to pay, and you should not have this financial crunch?
Okay, let's look at it probably pre-COVID, during COVID, and post-COVID. Because sad to say, during COVID, I got to close few hotels lah. But bear in mind, the way I look at it, probably our business modeling are bottom heavy. If what I say bottom heavy, okay, have we studied in terms of our coffee house, in terms of our housekeeping and whatever, what are the prime time for us to provide service? And if we don't look at that, then probably we're using one size fits all. Example of coffee house. Coffee house, what is the time that they are busy? They are busy 7 to 9. Then they are busy 11:30 to 2:30. Then lull period, they're going to be busy back 6:30 until 10:30. So then, this is where we need to really measure. Okay, one hotel, not to name any hotel, I went there. The hotel, the uniform is the same, whether you are in F&B or you are in housekeeping or whatever. At the back, they just put crew, the small one, crew. Then you got your name there. One morning, I say, hey, this guy is opening up the door, means he become the bellman. Suddenly, during lunch hour, he's at the banquet. And then, come night, he's not night lah, I think within still that 8 hours, turn the bed, do the bilik, do the room. Then I said, hey, this morning I saw you. So, by looking at multitasking, this is where you do inventory skill, you build their skill, and you pay them for the skill. You don't pay them, okay, you are bartender, I pay you bartender. No. I'm paying you for your skill. The more skills you have, the more you get. And they top up with, say for example, number of room that you do in a day and whatever, so that become commission to you.
So I told this guy this, perhaps your business model needs tweaking. He got a little bit offended with me, probably things I'm trying to teach him around the business, but I told him, why is that one hotel can make money, but another hotel cannot in the same road? right? So if your customer service is good, budget hotel. I don't know if you've stayed in one before, but my experience in budget hotel, I can tell you, the quality of service is so broken shower heads and toilet not cleaned up, stains here, stains there. But how much of investment do we need to put in to get this rectified? I think it's not much. So if our services facilities is tip top, I don't think a customer wouldn't mind paying an additional 20 ringgit, right? Okay, and yep. So I think we have had a good chat today. And is there anything that you like to bring up? Because being a very experienced HR practitioner, you have done a lot of advisory and consulting and whatnot. What advice would you have for HR professionals today?
I still consider myself quite young in HR, 28 years. So and my advice to HR practitioner, put your ears to the ground, because that is where you will get all the feedback. Example, how many of us walk the floor and ask the staff, how are you today? Rather than say, hey, I saw you come in late yesterday. No, no, no. Look at it from the emotion part, because as an OD person, that's why I always start with inquiry mode. And where do you look at? You look at the smoke signal. What kind of smoke signal? Tardiness issue is a smoke signal. What we call absent is the smoke signal. MC is a smoke signal. And work performance is smoke signal. What I mean by smoke signal, it is an early indicator before the building got burned. So if you know that and you pen it down, you say, hey, how come last month our MC goes up? You don't pinpoint to the person, but you point into the issue. Is there any critical issue that happened in the office? Example, some bosses are pushing these people to the wall, and that's why the MCs goes up. Or the other part is also we are lacking in terms of monitoring. We don't monitor them. Then come the trust issue. So, but to me, if we are good with our smoke signal, we know what are the indicator, it will help us a lot actually. It will help us a lot, and we don't spend time on non-value added activities. Okay, by the way, how many of us knows that? Yes, we have business canvas model. Do you know that HR also have its own model? 2 weeks ago, I presented to one senior guy. Then suddenly say, oh, HR also got ah? And I say, you do not know ah? You in HR, how come you do not know? Because we need to know what our model that we that we work on. So, and this is where I appreciate those who even ask me personal question. Yes, in the forum also you ask question, and this is where we grow. We grow by answering question. We don't simply grow by keeping it to ourselves. Okay.
So I think let me just sum up some of the points you've mentioned and just chip in a little bit of my thoughts. So as HR practitioner, our role is we have to look beyond the administrative function. So we are no longer admin department. We are human resources. So apart from just the basic paperwork, the basic admin work, we have to look into things that we've mentioned: performance, organizational development, succession planning, competency mapping, and all those things, right? Not just getting stuck there. And so what do we do as HR practitioner? Let's now widen our horizon, right? Widen our horizon, which is also good for you, because when we write our resume, we can say that, oh, we have done this, we have done this, we have done this. When you apply for the job and the employee said, have you done OD? Yes, I've done OD. Rather than, oh, I've not done OD. I've not done this. I've not done, because I was so busy chasing operators, right? Simplify the processes, remove unnecessary legacy processes. If the risk is low, I will remove it. I don't know about you. Yep. Yeah. If the risk is low, remove it. But if there's a compliance need, we have to do it. No other choice. But I would find ways to simplify it. Right? Simple acknowledgement. Sometimes I tell employees, companies, if not required, remove it. Running around for acknowledgement, remove it. Simplify processes and so on. I think there's much more wider scope we got to look at, which we're not looking at. And I think this is what the bosses want from us. The bosses don't know how to tell us this because they're not sure. But it is up to us now to bring the company to the next phase. That's how we can value it, right? Not just switching off the light during lunchtime, saving 200 ringgit a day, 200 ringgit, nothing much. We save 200, but we spend thousands of ringgit through loss of productivity, cost of rehiring, or cost of poor hiring and all those things, right? So I think there's much more to do. And I would urge all the HR practitioners today, do look into equipping yourself, upgrading your knowledge, upskilling yourself. So a little bit on Malaysia HR Forum. For those of you all, if you are new, Malaysia HR Forum is one of the fastest or largest growing HR platform in Malaysia. And we have got over 40,000 plus members consisting of HR professionals, business owners, and not to say we got some authorities as well in the group, to join us in building the HR capability in Malaysia. And we have also recently launched our advisory package. And so this is where we help companies, to advise you whenever you have issues. But we don't just want to advise you when you have issues. That would mean when you're hungry, you come to us, we feed you. But we also want to help you how to catch fish and eat it yourself. So that's why we have the capacity building modules, which is a little bit unique compared to the other offerings outside. So every year, we will, in 12 months, we'll be putting these companies to 12 modules. And you have people like Encik Sulaiman to guide you on these modules, how to write legal documentation, how to, work on preventive measures. Don't just work things reactively, how to work proactively. So, do join us in Facebook. There's a link that will be shared later if you're not yet in our Facebook community. And we really hope that you found the podcast today useful and all our sharings, right? I don't know what you say about our HR forum. Some people say, wow, you guys got so much of, yesterday I got there's a post from a guy called Miko Khan. He says this, he has joined so many HR platforms in Facebook and so on, but Malaysia HR Forum is the only platform that has tons of knowledge, free of charge. So he's also worried, are we spoon feeding people? Yep. So with that, thanks a lot for joining us, and we really hope that this has been useful. And thanks a lot for Encik Sulaiman for being with us today to share your insights and your experiences over the years. And to know more about Encik Sulaiman, you can join the trainings that Encik Sulaiman does. And we have also have a few recordings of yours in our platform. Do join in and listen. And with that, I would like to say thank you to our team today, Adlin, Charlene, and as well as Amira, and all those back in the office who has helped us to have this podcast. This is our first podcast, actually. Oh, okay. Right. The one you did before was very much to introduce you as a trainer, and today is our first podcast. So we hope to do more with more speakers down the road, and with all your support, I think we can do it. Thanks a lot, and thanks a lot, Encik Sulaiman. Okay, thank you. Yeah, thanks a lot.
Okay, my name is Sulaiman Husin. Mainly, my forte is HR. Not only on HR operation and learning and development, I also doing a lot of HR strategic transformation. And looking at the spectrum of over the last 25 years doing HR, I think I'm still passionate. I'm still consider myself as a newbie, learning a lot, especially through the social media. And current issues and challenges in doing HR is very different from the day that I joined back in 1995. Okay, I carve my career every 5 years. The first 5 years was a basic. Every single thing under the HR I learned. The second 5 years is basically learning the other part of business. The third part of doing HR is basically becoming an internal consultant. Now I'm in the fourth phase. I start to love to train people because the knowledge that I gather, even though not that much, it can be used by others. One, to learn. The other one is also not to make the same mistake some silly mistake that I made earlier. So now I'm encouraging the newbies, learn from the expert. I'm not the expert, but at least don't repeat the simple mistake. I will always ask, if people ask, I will always go back to these three. One is the employment law. Second one is the performance management system. And the third one is basically system, HR system. People feel it a bit awkward. Yeah, I have done a lot of system migration from manual to system, and also automation, dashboard. So that's another part that very rare people know about me, but I do a lot of HRIS. And my original paper during my degree is basically HRIS in Malaysia. Assalamualaikum. My name is Sulaiman Husin. I'm a trainer for Malaysian HR Forum. Do join me for HR for non-HR, disciplinary, and lines of HR topics. Come, join me.
Are you tired of the same old routine? Feeling like your team is missing that spark? Lacking of working spirit? You can change it! It's time to ignite the fire within your team and watch them flourish like never before. Malaysia HR Forum, your ultimate team building provider. We specialize in creating unforgettable experiences that will strengthen bonds, foster communication, and unlock the true potential of your team.
Sometimes we feel that we can't contribute because we don't have the skills. But even by providing the support, the encouragement, that alone is quite encouraging already. If we can't do it, that's fine because we don't have the skills.
From thrilling outdoor adventures to thought-provoking indoor workshops, our expert facilitators tailor each experience to your unique team dynamics. Witness the transformation as your team breaks barriers, builds trust, and embraces a shared vision of success.